can go to her website, www.cynthiarobinson.me, and see all that she has to offer. I can guarantee you won't be disappointed.
God bless everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Crazy Within Talk Show. I am so happy to be here today as we're coming to the end of this year, and everything that you're probably doing right now, getting your Christmas presents, getting everything assorted, getting your house together, getting it clean, making sure you got your stuff ready for your family and friends. I want to take this opportunity to tell you what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about caregivers. And for a lot of us, we don't know what that is because a lot of us aren't caregivers. We don't have to take care of anybody. We get to go about our day. We're not having to make sure that someone else's life is in our hands. But not everybody has that. And so on today, I have a wonderful woman of God to come talk about this issue, concern, and I want to say life that they live when they're helping someone else. So as always, before I begin my show, I want to open up in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank and praise you for bringing us into this opportunity again, God. Thank you for an opportunity to be able to speak life into someone else's life on today, God. Maybe there are caretakers out there that are going through and they just feel like they are not heard. Well, on this day, God, I pray that they feel heard. I pray they feel validated. I pray that they get energized and get some enlightenment on how to not just take care of the person they're taking care of, but also take care of themselves. So, Lord, as we go forward, I pray that you will step in, talk to your sons and daughters, and let them know that you are God and that you are blessing them every step of the way. And Lord, we will never fail to give you the glory, honor, and the praise. Lord, I thank you for my co-host on tonight, and I pray that we help someone who may be going through, or maybe they don't even know they're about to go through it. I pray that we give them some enlightenment. So I thank you, God. I honor you in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. And so before I bring on my co-host, I want to give you a little bio of her. She is Judy Ann Hewitt, an author, speaker, and advocate. She has authored her first journal, Rest, Restore, Renew. This self-care journal for caregivers captures her life of going through the process of forgiveness while caring for a family member. Judy has also co-authored the best-selling anthology For Such a Time as This and The Breaking Point. Her mantra, forgiveness leads to purpose. An admitted writer, poet, lover of music, art, Judy is committed to using her God-given gifts to empower the lives of those touched by her writings. Originally a native of Trinidad and Tobago, she now calls Florida home, and we're both Floridians. Devoted to her 4 grandchildren and in the memory of her son, Ronald C. Hewitt, she writes. And I want to say to everybody, please welcome my co-host and also my co-author, Judy Ann Hewitt. Yay! 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 I'm so happy to have you on this show.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Cynthia. It's so good seeing you again.
Yes. So for everybody who don't know, and I know some of you already know, me and and Judy were in for such a time as this. This is how we met. And she just reminded me, it was a year ago that we did this book together. Oh my gosh. And I said as I said to her, so many friends I have made from doing this anthology. And it really was for such a time as this. But we did meet that way and stayed friends and been following each other on Facebook. And I'm so excited to have you on my show. So let's start from the very beginning. Who are you, Judy A. Hewitt?
Oh, my goodness. Such a warm welcome. Thank you so much. Who am I? Oh, my God. A child of God, first of all.
All right.
But as you mentioned, my journey to writing began when I did that anthology for such a time as this. I wrote about being a caregiver for my mom and how that process took me through not only realizing that it was a lonely road, but I needed to forgive. And I was on the altar and God walked me through a process of self-care, forgiveness, healing, and restoration.
Amen.
Now,
Amen.
I'm talking about the story for the last year. God laid on my heart, you've been doing caregiving as a professional all your career. And I really didn't put two and two together. I've been in the healthcare industry for 35 years on the administrative side. I've also worked as a CNA or nursing assistant, worked in doctor's office, weighing patients in and so forth. So that's actually caregiving as well. And God literally had to put the two together. And so earlier this year, both of those were married and Self-Care for Caregivers International was birthed.
All right. All right. And we're going to get into all the deep stuff in a couple of minutes, but let's go back a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to, you said that for such a time as this was your writer's debut. So what made you decide that is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to be a part of that anthology?
So the first thing when I met the visionary author and I read the story of Esther, and that first line that says, if you do not speak now, and I just fell apart. I just knew he was speaking to me, about me. It's time to tell your story. And it turned out, now it's funny that we're talking about this. While I was caregiving for my mom in Florida 10 years or 15 years or so prior to the anthology, I was crying out to God saying, you know what? I'm not feeling any of this. I'm not myself. I'm angry. I don't want to be in Florida. It's dry. Everything's dry. I'm dealing with this person I love, but I'm also dealing with childhood issues now that I'm 40 and I'm taking care of this person.
Right.
One day in Hudson Beach, Pasco County, I was looking at a sunset, and that's where I fell in love with God again in sunsets. Oh, wow. And I was whining and complaining. And he just said to me, you're going to write a book. And I'm like, yeah, I am. It's going to call Victory in a Dry Place because everything is dry. I was really upset. So fast forward 15 years, I relocated back to Florida because I was turning that nice tender age close to retirement. And I'm like, look, I'm going to do me. I'm tired of taking care of the children, the grandchildren, the family. So in 2019, I relocated back to Florida doing my semi-retirement. And then at the beginning of, through the pandemic and beginning of 2021 is when we started the process for the book. So when I heard that scripture, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was the time, because we had already had this conversation 15 years ago.
That is something. That's something. And it's amazing how when God calls us to do something, it may not be at that moment, but like what God always does, he prepares us. He puts us in preparation. I think a lot of people misinterpret when God talks to them, that they think a lot of things are immediate, but it is God letting you know that this is what you're going to do. This is me preparing you for what's going to happen. The same way he let Moses know, you're going to deliver my people out of Egypt. It wasn't an easy process, but they worked.
No, it took a long time.
A long time. And sometimes it does. It takes a long time for us to get through the process. So, okay, you did for such a time as this.
It's funny that we are walking through this, because literally God had to walk me through my whole life story the past 2 years. I was not going to write about the story about my mom.
Okay.
I had so many different stories and directions I was going to go. And as you know, our beautiful visionary author, I always got to give her props.
Yes.
Pastor Paulette Harper. She was like, you need to narrow one story, okay?
You sound like me.
And so she helped me, craft my story. And this is what it ended up being. I had no idea that 2 years afterwards, he would say to me, look at the story again. Look at what you've been doing for the past 35 years.
Wow.
Look at how they come together and how they mirror. And this is more ministry than it is a business. Because I'm so compassionate, So here we are.
And so can you tell us a little bit about your chapter in the book? It was called The Power of Forgiveness. Can you tell us a little bit about your chapter? Don't give it all away, because if you have not gotten your book, you need to go ahead and get it. I know it's been a year, but you can still get your copy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, and whoops, I got mine too, okay? So a little bit about my chapter. It started out with me realizing that I wanted to hear I'm sorry. I wanted to mend things. So it's like, if you had an opportunity, to more or less ask someone, do you hear me? Do you forgive me? Why it's not working? Would you do so? How would it go? And so I realized that we had a broken relationship, but I loved her. And we just had a broken relationship. I never got my questions answered.
Wow. Okay.
In one of the points of the book, I said, if I knew that she was going to die a week, prior to her dying, would I be at the nursing home asking her why we don't get along? I felt that you abandoned me. All these questions I had, and I think I wanted, I'm sorry, but she says, I didn't think I did anything wrong. I left to take care of the family, and I had to really go through God walked me through a process that, yes, it happened, but I have to look at her pain. I have to be empathetic with her. I have to realize that she did the best she knew how.
Right.
It doesn't mean to say that I'm not hurt, because I have to forgive so I could be set free.
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I had to do the forgiving. In spite of me wanting that validation, and in spite of me wanting that I'm sorry, I had to say, okay, God, I surrender. I'm giving it all to you. But I'm going to tell you, Pastor Cynthia, it took me a while to walk through that process. I'm telling you, because I literally was going to the altar every Sunday. Lord, please help me to forgive. Lord, then I realized, Judy, you done asked God every Sunday for the past 2 months. Okay. He done heard you.
Oh my goodness.
It's already done. You need to change your trajectory, and you need to change your posture in prayer, and you need to really work on yourself. And I literally had to do that. I realized that I needed affirmations. I joined a women's ministry. Every time the church was open, I was there, because I realized that I was hungry for what he wanted to do and what he wanted to give me. And it was a healing process. And it worked. I had to do self-care and journaling and affirmations, and I am worthy. And I had to forgive. I realized that it was a process. It wasn't just me saying, I forgive. I had to go through a process of actually intentionally forgiving.
Yes. And that is so important. And that's just a lifelong lesson for all of us, not just as caregivers and everything, just a life lesson that we all have to learn to forgive. Because when we hold grudges and we hold on to things, what it does is it prevents us from becoming the person that we need to be for us. It prevents us from receiving love. It prevents us from being able to give love. If I'm holding a grudge towards somebody else, I can't, I'm in my own way. I'm preventing me from being who I need to be the blessing that I'm supposed to be. And so, and this is what my father said to me, because I was so angry at my father because I felt like he destroyed our family. And so one day, my father, because I wouldn't speak to him, I would see him, I wouldn't say anything to him. And then one day he said, "You're going to have to forgive me if you think you're going to make it into heaven." And I looked at him, with his unsaved self. And, and I said to myself, you know what? He telling the truth. Whether I want to admit it or not, I have to let go. I got to let it go. I cannot walk around with somebody else's burden, somebody else's sin, somebody else's stuff. I can't walk around with that. I got to let it go. It may hurt me. It may take a process. It may take me years before I really let it go. But I have to say to God, you know what, God? I'm going to let this go. I'm going to let you take care of it. I'm going to let you take care of me, and I'm going to make it through this. And sometimes we definitely have to let go. We will never, ever be the person that we need to be if we're holding on to stuff that doesn't prosper us as children of God. Because as children of God, God wants us to prosper. And unforgiveness is something he don't tolerate. I tell anybody that. Let's be clear. God forgave us. There was a ransom for us.
Absolutely.
And Jesus came and snatched that ransom. So if he takes the ransom, he took your guilty plea. Jesus took your guilty plea. And then you get to walk away. You don't turn around and then say to the next person, you know what, you did me wrong. And so I'm going to hold this against you. We don't get to do that. We got to let go. We got to let go.
And it frees you. And when I say my mantra is forgiveness leads you to your purpose, is something that I literally walked through. Because once the shackles started coming off, then I started to be positioned for who he wants me to really be.
Absolutely.
In the space that he wants me to really be in, where I'm supposed to serve, who I'm supposed to serve. Because there's a lot of people out there that's waiting for somebody to be free.
Yes. You have their story.
Absolutely.
You have their story. You have their banner in your hand, but you won't free yourself enough to swing that banner and say, we can be free from this. You are this. I mean, when I think about it, I'm looking at it for such a time as this, for every single person that wrote in that book, we helped free somebody from something that we didn't know that our story would help free. That's why I say everybody that writes is a walking epistle. You have written something that will free somebody. We think about those who wrote the Bible and we go, oh, they are no, they are part of the story. Yes. I will be right along with Apostle Paul, not because I'm pastor, but because Cynthia actually sat down and wrote something to help the saints. And so for all of us who do that on a regular basis, if we get the opportunity to be able to be free, we don't have to stay tied down. But if we never swing that banner, if we never acknowledge what happened, if we never really sit down and get through the past of the pain of it all, we will constantly be stuck, and we make other people stuck because we don't say what we're supposed to say.
Absolutely. And, to add to what you said, in October, I got a text from one of our co-authors for such a time as this, his mom. And he said, my son is a co-author with your book. And I read his story, but I never read yours. And I am going through the same thing that you went through with your mom.
Oh, wow.
And I had to reach out to Pastor Paulette Harper to say, confirmation, your story, you never know who it's going to save. And it's a whole year later now, a whole year later, a
Yes,
whole year
yes.
later. So you never know.
You never know. You
Never
never
know.
know. You never know. And sometimes they never let you know that your book or your story or something you said helped them, released them, renewed them. Honestly, sometimes people don't let you know. And as a caregiver, as you said, you have been a caregiver all your life. So what was it like for you when you were caring for your mother? What was that like?
So it was really challenging because I felt a little isolated.
Mm,
Um, I did have a sister that helped, but not, when you find out that you're like the one that's really, tending to everything, you need some help sometimes. You need
mhm,
somebody to say, I'll take her to the doctor's appointment this time.
mm,
Then you have to really have a plan. There was no plan in place. Like,
mm,
let's have a plan, as in, the doctor, the bills, the insurance.
mm.
Mom wanted control of everything. So, you just had to kind of like navigate your way blindly through helping her,
Mm,
because she wanted control of everything. She didn't want it to release that control for somebody to care for her. So
wow.
you have to deal with
Wow.
that as well. And I would always say, um, as we did our launch and our workshop, you never know what someone is going through. A smile could help.
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
can I get you a cup of coffee? You know what I mean? Or just something, are you okay? So I go out of my way now and I will ask people, my neighbors, I'm in a 55 and over building. And if I hear, that someone's brother is sick, or, I will go out of my way and ask, are you okay? Because
Mm,
sometimes just by asking them, are you okay? You would be surprised on the release and the relief that comes off of them, that
true.
somebody
True.
sees me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody recognized that I am under pressure. And so we can all heal each other by just doing the little simple things.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'm looking at some of the comments, and Troy said having a plan is very important, even if you things don't go as planned, even if things don't go as planned, you have a starting point. And I think that's real important, because if you do not, thank you, Choice, for that. When you do not plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
And it's such a true statement. Like, for
Yes.
and I want to say this about my community. I can't say this about everybody's community, but I know
Mhm.
within the Black community, a lot of times we plan funerals when a person dies. We do not plan for the funeral before they die. We don't get life insurance. We don't do any of that.
No.
We don't plan. So we don't think. And I'm working on my kids with this. Like, at some point, your mother that you think is so vibrant and everything, things might change. Things are going to. I'm older than you. Things are going to change, and so I want you to be prepared.
Scared.
Somebody may have to take care of me. Y'all
Right.
need to decide who that person is going to be.
Go me.
Y'all have to decide these things when you're still young, and everybody is like, everybody feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Like I tell my kids, I'm never leaving Florida, so you might as well plan something here.
Right.
But
Right.
it is about being prepared, because you never know when you're going to be the person that has to. I won't say want to, but
But
has
has to.
to take
And
care of that person.
now that is so, so important, as has to. Because
Hmm.
post COVID, the majority of us here in the US of A had to
Yes.
take care of a family member, a
Hmm.
friend, a child, a co-worker, or something due to sickness. So we were just forced into caregiving.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
No, we didn't have a plan. We didn't know how we're gonna do it. We're gonna work at it as we go by.
Yes.
We're gonna pray somebody gonna give us some instructions.
Right.
But we have to.
Yes. We have to plan.
We can't even take them to the nursing homes because remember the nursing homes were shut down.
Yes.
So failure to plan is planning to fail, you know?
Yes. And for a lot of us, especially when it comes to being a caregiver, caregivers are people who do it not necessarily because they want to. I want to say this, not necessarily because they want to. They've been put in a position where they have to. I want to emphasize this because especially, and I'll say this again. I can't talk about nobody else's community. I'm talking about my own. I'm talking about my own family. I'm talking about what we've had to do. And there have been times where my aunt had to go take care of my grandmother, and my grandmother took care of her mother, and that's the way it went. Even though you may have of the siblings, they may be around, but everybody goes, oh, you're the nicest one, so you could go take care of them, or you're the strongest one, so you could go take care of them. And so that, and a lot of times that's exactly what winds up happening. The strongest person winds up taking care of someone who's ill. The thing about it is, if you're already dealing with your own issues, here you go walking in taking care of somebody with issues. And what happens is that you start taking care of them, and that first year you're fine, you're great. But I just read that caregivers go through burnout.
Yes, they do.
Yes, I know you can tell me about that. Caregivers go through burnout.
Yes, they do.
At some point you get tired. And I won't say tired, you get tired.
Exactly.
You get tired, red. And so as a caregiver, I'm pretty sure at some points during the time of you taking care of your mom, there were days, and y'all already had a strained relationship. So there had to be days when you was like, you know what, I ain't even. I'm just not even at this point. How did you deal with your caregiver burnout?
I'm being honest. I was in church every time the door was open. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I ran to Jesus. Because I had nowhere else to go. Okay, I'm new to Florida. My family's in Maryland. I do have a younger sister here, but she's younger. She has no children. She's not married. You know.
Okay.
My brother, he's in Maryland taking care of his family. He just got married, have babies. So he couldn't opt to move to Florida. So here I am, the oldest one. My son got out of high school. I'm the one to opt to go. I'm like, okay, we love mom. Let's go. But honey, that's why me and Jesus had a lot of conversations at that sunset. And it's only by the grace of God that he literally led me through the women's ministry. I went through deliverance. I realized I had to be delivered from some things, being really honest. I had to also look at me because it wasn't all her. You know what I mean?
Come on.
Went through some journaling. We had an accountability group in our women's mission. So we had like 4 of us got together and had an accountability group. And I was able to be transparent without being judged. And they were able to cover me. And we were able to journal. And that's when I started writing goals out on what I want for myself, you know, starting to really, really feel life. And to be honest with you, she got well a little. And I didn't even go back to Maryland because the relationship and what I was going through with Jesus was so good that I know I had to be released to go back. Isn't that something? So meanwhile, the first 2 years, I'm crying. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to get out of here. And once he started working on me, the journey was such a lovable journey that I found myself. It was like the highest level in my adult life that I had a very, very good one-on-one with God. I learned a lot. He walked me through a lot. And I knew from my teachings at the church that I went to that I had to be released. I couldn't just leave. I had to be released.
Wow. Oh,
And
that's good. That's
I'm
good.
going to be honest with you. I literally heard it from the pulpit, you know, that you're here today and God is saying it's time for you to go.
Wow.
And that was a year after she passed.
Woo. Wow.
So
Okay.
I committed to God and where he was taking me and through that journey. And that's where I found my purpose. I had to go through that process. Now, mind you, what if I had not went through the process?
Right. Right.
You know how sometimes we go bucking, child, I ain't trying to go through this, Lord, you know. I'm 40, living my best life. I ain't married yet, nothing. I just got out of college. I'm trying to live my life like, what you got me here for? But I have a heart for God. I grew up, you know, knowing God as a baby. So I just knew I had to yield to him. And
Mm.
as a result of yielding to him, it was just so beneficial in my life.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Yeah, yeah, right. That's powerful. You cannot move until God releases you, not your time, his time. Yes, yes, choice,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
And that is so true. A lot of us think that we can go before God. No, you can't. No, you
Nope.
can't. You can't go before God. No, even if he tells you where you're going, you still can't go before he says it's time for you to go. It's when he says it's time. So you got released. So what did your release take you to?
Girl, I went back to Maryland in a quick, fast, and a hurry minute. I was gone. I was gone. I went back home to Maryland, and you know, I tell you, God is just, you know how we say we got plans, and He laughs.
Mm.
He literally had me on the number 9 for those years. I spent 9 years in Florida.
Wow.
I went back to Maryland for 9 years,
Mm.
and in 2019, 9 years, I came back to Florida because I
Wow.
was like, I'm ready to retire now. And as a result, I've got 2 books. I mean, I'm like, you know, like this was not expected. I'm doing the Moses. You sure you called me for this? Like, I'm a little too old. I'm 62. I'm not trying to do this. Like, are you sure you want me to do this? And he literally had to show me how both of those things came together and how it was my purpose and it was the plan that he had for me.
Yes, yes, yes. And while you're transitioning, let's say that's what it was, while you were transitioning, and as a caregiver, and not just a caregiver to your mother, but just a caregiver in general, as you talked about, like you were caregiving when you were working, you were caregiving with your mother, you probably caregiving with your grandkids, you caregiving with your children. When at any point in your caregiving, because this is one of the subjects I really want to tap into, because caregivers go through a lot. um and I'll keep emphasizing that because I can't emphasize that enough. For those of you who know caregivers, maybe you hadn't even thought about it, you need to reach out to them and see how they're doing, because
Yes.
caregivers will put a smile on their face and say everything's
Thing is
good, but they're actually dealing with a lot of issues, and not just the issues of the person they're dealing with. They're dealing with those issues of anger, frustration, because the person they're dealing with, they may be dealing with someone who's dealing with Alzheimer's or dementia,
Mhm.
and that frustration after a while of the person not remembering not to take their medicine, they're not remembering where they live at, they're not remembering who you are. um and
Right.
and I remember when my mother, she was in the hospital, and she went through they weren't too sure, but they think it might have been a diabetic seizure. And when
Hmm.
my mother came to, my mother didn't know anybody. And so when I walked up to her, she looked at me like she had never seen me. I don't think I ever been that scared, that my mother looked at me like she didn't know who I was. She had
Hmm.
no clue. And
Hmm.
it scared me because it was like, oh my gosh, how could she not know her own child? But I think about how people have to deal with that every day. You imagine going to take care of your mom or your dad, and every day you go in like the movie The Notebook. You go in every day trying to do something to jog their
Something.
memory,
Hmm.
and after a while, I would think that depression does hit. I would think that
It does.
frustration shows up. I would think that,
Yes.
and I was talking about the burnout, the frustration, the anger, getting extremely tired, not wanting. I'm just reading off a couple of the common signs of caregiving burnout. They say forgetfulness or fall, quick to anger, anxiety or depression, hopeless or
Yes.
helplessness, uninterested in things that you used to enjoy. And I just think about how many people who are caregivers who are dealing with this, and how much for those of us who get to, I say, walk away free, um not
Mm.
understanding that. So when and I know that you have your group, self-care for Caregivers International. Is this one of the topics that you talk about when you are when you guys get together?
Absolutely, we do. We talk about all of the things that you mentioned. They need time for respite, they need time to recharge, they need recognition, they
Yes.
need understanding, they need financial and emotional support.
Mm.
What we did when we did our first workshop, we took care of their pain points. We provided them resources of programs that can help them with their cost of medications.
Wow.
That's the financial support. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't know that there are programs out there that gives out grants to help you with your asthma
Oh.
inhalers and your well, they take care of other, like
Mhm,
diseases,
mhm.
like cancer and breast cancer and prostate cancer. But there's other, heart failure medications that are expensive. So
Wow.
there are programs out there that supports that. So we provided them resources of the foundations that are out there. What we did was we had a licensed Medicare specialist to talk about Medicare. There's a lot of things that they don't know about the insurance industry and how to
Mhm,
navigate.
mhm, mhm.
So, one tip that I'm going to say, and hopefully someone in the audience, it would be a help. When you retire and you are time for Medicare, you have 60 days to sign up for Medicare Part D as in David, which is for your medicine. If you're a healthy individual, you're like, well, why am I going to sign up for this? I'm not taking any medications. Why am I going to pay X amount of dollars a month and I'm not utilizing it? Well, you will be more or less, they put a charge on you. God forbid, you do have to now take medication.
Mm,
You
mm.
will have to pay for all of the time that you didn't pay for it and beyond. It does not stop. It
Oh,
does not stop occurring, the fines that they penalize you for.
wow.
So on my job now, I've had people to call to get help for their medications because not only is the cost high, but I'm living, I'm healthy. I didn't do anything. I don't have any medicine. Now I've got this diagnosis and I need medicine. And not only do I have to pay for the insurance, but I've got to pay for the penalties because I did not sign up for it within the 60-day time frame that I had to when I
Wow.
retired.
Wow.
Nobody talks about that.
Mhm, mhm.
We had a licensed insurance person to talk about life insurance and different types of policies. We had a mindset coach. We also had a mental health therapist to deal with the stresses. It's okay to say no sometimes. You don't always have to save the world. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a walk. It's okay to go and have lunch with your girlfriend. And it's also okay to call that brother, sister, auntie, or uncle and say, hey, can you watch mom or dad, for half a day while I go shopping? It's
Mhm.
okay to do those things. Look at your stresses. Take care of yourself. One of the things that we wanted to highlight as well is self care is like taking time out to go to the doctor. The same way you schedule your dentist appointment and the same way you schedule your doctor's appointment, you
Yes,
need to
yes,
schedule your self-care.
yes, yes.
Just that kind of like incorporated in
Mhm.
your regime for taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
So we provided all of those services. And then I wanted to extend it to, I spoke with a couple of art therapy and music therapists, licensed, in case somebody wants to de stress doing art or music. It doesn't have to be therapy. You know how our
Uh-oh.
release, it's a way of de-stressing, and it could be something that you like, art or music, but you're doing it in the form of a therapeutic way. And then the last item we have, which is my favorite, spa day. I just love the whole pamper thing, but we don't look at it. The pamper thing is something that's just on the surface. We want to inspire them holistically, mind, body, soul. Give them all of the things that are the pain points that they need assistance with, to
Hmm.
provide those resources.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And for those of you who are just joining in, we are talking about self care for caregivers. And our co host this evening is Judy Hewitt, Judy A. Hewitt, and she is the founder of Self Care for Caregivers International. Me and her co authored a book for such a time as this. And we're talking about how to be there for people who are caregivers. A lot of times, for those of us, it most of the time it falls on family caregivers, because a lot of times we can't afford to have someone come into the home and take care of mom and dad or take care of a sick child. A lot of times it falls on us. We're the caregivers. We have to be in the house. We have to be there for them. We have to make sure that they eat. We have to make sure that they bathe. We have to make sure that they're taken care of, take them to their appointments, make sure they are taking their medicine. And so, as much as we may love the fact that we're helping a family member, a lot of times it can be very stressful.
Yes.
And a lot of times, oddly enough, sometimes the family members aren't necessarily appreciative of you helping them. And especially if they've always been very independent, they've
Yes.
always been very strong and strong willed, a lot of times it's very difficult for them to understand that they need help. And a lot of times it takes them falling down, getting hurt, something happening for them to realize that you're not there to take anything away from them, but you're actually there to help them. And
Yes.
as people who are caregivers, sometimes they're the unsung heroes, because a lot
Yes.
of people just think, oh, it's your mother, so you shouldn't mind doing it, or it's your
Yeah.
dad, you shouldn't mind doing it, or I'll say this, it's your husband, you shouldn't mind doing it, it's your wife, you shouldn't mind doing it,
Yeah.
or it's your child, you shouldn't mind doing it. And it's not about a mind thing, it's just the point that you are taking care of another human being, and it can become stressful.
So,
And so when you decided to make your and is it a, I know you say it's a business, is it a for profit or nonprofit?
so right now we're in the process of deciding. Right now it is for profit. I
Okay.
would love for it to be nonprofit for the simple fact that I want to be able to serve.
Okay.
Looking at my target audience, they're already on taking care of a family member. There's already financial support needed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They can't afford to come to a workshop and get a manicure or pedicure, or get brunch, because we serve brunch too. So you put something on like that, you're looking at a good 60 $70 price ticket there, but they can't afford that. So I would really love for it to be a
Mm,
nonprofit, down the road, because I would love to do this for free. You know how they say you would find what you like to do and you would do it for free? This
right,
is what I
right.
would love to do, just to go around and do these workshops and just love on these people, because we all need someone to care for us as
Yeah.
we're caring for them.
Yes, that is so true. And I'm and during this season, especially the holiday season, At a time where maybe you are now going, maybe it's your first year where this is the first year that you're going to be taking care of someone during the holiday season. And so you find yourself trying to figure out how you're going to navigate being with your family, being with your friends, and also taking care of your family member, whether that family member is actually living in your home or that family member is in a nursing home or rehab facility or whatever the case may be. You may find it very difficult to navigate your way around how to do that at this time. And then it can make you feel like, if I'm not here, I'm wrong. But if I'm not over there, I'm wrong. You know, if I'm not taking care of mom today, I'm wrong going out to sit out with the family and maybe go have some dinner, Christmas dinner with everybody. But if I go to Christmas dinner, then everybody's going to think I'm being neglectful. And so how do you navigate through the landmines a lot of times that we set for ourselves?
Yeah, I would say you got to ask for help. You got to get rid of that guilt, because who's going to take care of you? You know, another statistic that we don't talk about, a lot of caregivers die before the people that they're caring for because they're not taking care of themselves.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So we don't want to have that statistic going on, you know. We have one in what is it that the AARP says? 1 in 5 reports that it's a highly physical, straining, stressful job. You know, 1 in 5. I mean, you know, you don't want to fall privy that you end up being sick.
Right.
From not taking care of yourself, you know, from taking care of someone else. So ask for help.
Yes, absolutely.
Ask for help.
Absolutely. And you brought up something that's real important, that a lot of people don't ask for help. A lot of people think they can do it on their own. And when you talk about people dying before the person they're taking care of, I think a lot of, especially husbands and wives, where maybe the husband or the wife is sicker than the one that's taking care of them, even though they're sick as well. And so what winds up happening is they're taking care of their husband and wife, and they're making sure they get to their doctor's appointments, and they're making sure they're bathed and all that other stuff, but they themselves don't take care of themselves. And then the person you're trying to care for winds up needing you to the point that when you're gone, they don't have anybody else, because the hand was never extended to set up so that if anything should happen to me, if I get sick, who's going to take care of your mother, or who's going to take care of your aunt? You know, to set that up. You said it earlier, and it is so true. We have to start planning. We have to plan for those situations that, we believe we don't want them to happen, but it's just genetic. We're born, we live, and we die. It's genetic.
It's a part of life.
It's a part of life. And so we need to prepare ourselves, and not just us personally, but also prepare our families.
Absolutely.
And put it on paper. Certain things need to be put on paper. If you have a life insurance policy, you need to put on paper how this money is supposed to be divvied out. You need to make sure that your estate is taken care of. You know, and definitely if you're married, you need to make sure that you have everything lined up and ready for you, because God forbid your husband has a stroke and he's sick, and then you wind up getting sick trying to take care of him, and now you got 2 people that are down. You got a family that don't know what to do next. There's nothing written out. Nobody knows if you have health insurance. Nobody knows if you have. I remember, and I say that my mother did not know where our life insurance policies were when her and my father got divorced. She had no idea where anything was, because my father took care of everything. So my mother didn't know where this was, where that was, how I take care of this, how I take care of that, because it was never her responsibility. And so my thing has always been, I got to know. I got to know where everything is, because I do not want to be in that spot where I don't know where anything is, and I'm just just out there. And so for
Right.
those of you who are watching, this isn't just necessarily for care, for your life, not just for caretakers, but for
Absolutely.
everybody. Make sure
Absolutely.
you know the importance of having stuff in your life set up for you and your family so that you don't have that. And I say it's prone to my community, but I don't think it is. I think a lot of people do this.
A lot of people, right.
A lot of people do this where the funeral is paid for at the funeral. And you should
Absolutely.
you should have life insurance. There is no reason to be walking around because we all gonna live and we all gonna die. You should
Yes.
have life insurance. And so as caregivers, and I want to say this to all the caregivers, whether you're a present day caregiver, you're a past caregiver, or you might be a future caregiver, I want to say to
Amen.
you, thank you. Even if
Yes.
nobody ever says it to you, thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for taking care of mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, grandma, grandpa, for taking that time, that energy. It takes a lot of energy to take care of someone else. It takes a lot of strength to take care of someone else. It takes a lot of mind power to take care of someone else, especially when they don't want you to take care of them. My
Yes.
grandma was a very honorary woman. And she didn't want nobody taking care of her. So I know how it feels
Yes.
to want to help. And honestly not want to, but gotta help.
Yes.
And you get that bug. You get that, oh, don't touch me. Don't do that. What'd you do with my money? You're getting all this, and all you're doing is taking care of
Helping.
them. So, for all of those who are out there and your caregivers, please understand you have a woman right here, my sister, my friend, who will help you. All you have to do is reach out to her.
Absolutely.
She has, her business is self-care for Caregivers International. I do have it right here on the screen. Please reach out to her. She's on Facebook. Reach out to her. Judy A. Hewitt, reach out to her. She can help you. She can navigate you maybe through some areas that you didn't know. You will be amazed how much stuff is out there. But for a lot of us, we know nothing about it. We don't know the information. We don't know what channels to go to. We don't know who to talk to. There are people sitting in offices that have jobs that take care of the very issue that you are in, right, that you're dealing with, and you have no idea because you don't know who to talk to. And Judy can help you. She can help you navigate. This ain't her first rodeo. And it ain't gonna be her last. And so she will be there for you, walking you through, making sure that you are okay. And maybe you can and I would love to do this because you're doing something that I love. I would love, because we're both in Florida. I would love for you to come down to Clearwater and have one of your workshops down here.
Okay.
Yes, so that we can spread this around. Because I know in Florida we have a lot of caregivers.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We have a lot of caregivers down here.
Do.
And so it would be nice to have someone who's been a caregiver, who's walked through the caregiving situation, be able to say to someone who is caring for a family member, I hear you. I know what you're going through. These are some of the things that you can do for yourself, especially when you talk about the self-care.
Yes.
Making sure that you spend just a little time with yourself to care for yourself so that you are strong enough to care for them. So as we begin to come to the end of the show, I want to give you an opportunity to let everybody know about you, let them know about everything that you offer.
Sure. So you can reach out to me. It's self-care, the number 4, caregivers, and we have international abbreviated, intl@gmail.com.
Right.
The website is the same thing, self-care, the number 4, caregivers, intl.com. But reach out to us by email, and we would be more than happy to provide you any resources that's needed. If we do not know, we would get you into the right direction. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. we will go ahead and find resources because it's a community that's connected. It's not just in Florida. So give us a call and we'll try our best to send you in the right direction, because there are a lot of caregiver networks out there and we're collaborating together so we can all be a blessing. It's called kingdom building.
Yes, yes. And we're all here to help one another. We
Yes.
are our neighbor's keeper, and we are
Keeper.
supposed to help our neighbors. And whether that neighbor is, your aunt, uncle, or it actually might be a neighbor. It may be a
Yeah.
friend that you've had for years, and you find out that they're sick or they're not able to move around as much as they used to be able to do, and you're going to go help them. That's caring for someone.
Absolutely.
And for you to be able to do that and actually be able to help, to be a help, is so important, because I think in our day and age where everybody wants to do it themselves, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, everybody wants to be an influencer, it is nice to still see that there are people who are, I would call, selfless, that will put themselves out there and help someone without looking for something back in return, that are helping their family members, and they're not looking for a profit. They're not looking to, turn a dime. They're not looking to, they are actually doing it because they really do genuinely love their family member, and they genuinely love taking care of people. That's why I say on tonight, I appreciate you all. Everybody that's doing it, has done it, and will do it. I appreciate you. If you never hear it, I appreciate you. I honestly can say I am not a nightingale. I am so not a nurse nightingale. I know that about myself. You got to know your limitations. I know that about myself. But I also know that if push come to shove, yes, I'm going to step in. No, I'm not going to see you go and hit the ground. No, I'm going to be there to pick you up. So, but I thank you, Judy, for being on the show. I appreciate it, and I appreciate our friendship by Dr. Paulette Harper, who's watching.
Yes. Our
The woman
visionary.
who got us together.
I know, our visionary. Yes.
I don't know if she's still watching, but I see her there, and I am so excited that, like I said, from this one book, I have made so many friends, and I'm so excited, and I so love having you guys on the show. And thank you so much. I know I will have you on again. And I appreciate everything that you have done and that you are still doing. Thank you for being a blessing to the kingdom.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So everybody, I just want to let everybody know that next week starts my Lonely series. It's going to be 2 weeks. I'm going to have on different guests talking about what it feels like and what it's like to be alone during the holiday season. And the holiday season starts in November and it goes all the way to March. We got to remember, we got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas, we got New Year's Eve, and we got Valentine's Day. There are people who are alone for various reasons, and this is a time where people have a tendency to commit suicide more. This is a time where people have a tendency to be depressed more, especially when the winter comes in. And so I'm going to do a 2-part series talking about the lonelies. And so if you are available and you want to come on and talk about how you made it over, or maybe you're a person actually going through it right now, we're going to have therapists and ministers and counselors who are going to come on and talk with us to help us through this. So I hope that even if you're a person who don't want to come on, watch the show. I'm telling you, you're going to be inspired. You're going to be lifted. You are going to be so enlightened on how you can get through this. So I want to wish everybody a good night. I pray that everybody has a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you guys next week on the Crazy Within Talk Show. God bless you guys.